You wake up to the smell of bread, rye burning on the embers, cheap flour, pig fat melting on the hot stone. It's 1347. You live in Messina, in southern Sicily. Your mother has been on her feet for 2 hours. It's dark outside. It will stay dark for another hour. You're 24 years old. You're a dock worker at the port. Your father did the same job, his father before him. Life here isn't easy, but it's life. There's a ship docking at the port today, coming from Kaffa, a city on the Black Sea. The sailors are arriving from a trading route that took months. You don't know what came on that ship beyond the cargo. You don't know that that ship is the most dangerous object that has ever existed on your continent. You go to work. The ship is docked differently. No crew movement. Normally, when a ship docks, there are 30 men moving at once, tying off, shouting, hauling. Today, there is silence. You move closer, you look at the deck. There are bodies. They are not dead the way you know death. They are not lying peacefully. They are twisted, clothes torn by their own fingers, black patches the size of oranges on their groins and armpits, dried blood blisters around their mouths, eyes open, rolled back. The men beside you take a step back. So do you. One of the sailors is still alive. He's leaning against the mast. He raises one hand, not to ask for help, to push you away. He says a single word. Run! This is the beginning. The authorities of Messina make a decision over the next 2 days. They send the ships away. All of them. The ships from Kaffa, the suspicious ships, any ship showing signs of disease. They push the boats back out to sea. They believe the danger leaves with them. The danger does not leave, because the problem wasn't the dead sailors. The problem was the rats that climbed down the anchor ropes while the ship was still docked. The rats with fleas, and the fleas carrying Yersinia pestis, a bacterium whose name you will never hear, because the concept of bacteria will not exist for another 500 years. You don't know this. No one does. What you know is that 3 weeks later, your neighbor Giovanni doesn't show up for work. You go to his house. The door is ajar. You call his name. No one answers. You walk in. The smell is the first sign. Not the smell of ordinary death. Not the smell you know from dead animals in the field or garbage in summer. It's sweeter and more rotten at the same time. Like fermented fruit mixed with something you can't name. Something from inside the human body that shouldn't be on the outside. Giovanni is in bed. He has a fever. You can feel the heat from 12 inches away. He's shaking under 2 blankets. His right armpit is swollen. The lump is the size of a chicken egg. The skin around it is deep purple. That is called a bubo, Yersinia pestis, infecting the lymph nodes. The lymph gland seizes the bacterium, tries to contain it, and fails. It fills with pus, blood, and live bacteria. It grows to the size of an orange in the next 2 days. It turns black in 3. You don't know this. You know your friend is suffering. You go find the neighborhood physician. His name is Master Enzo. He learned medicine from a monk in Naples. He knows Galen, Hippocrates, Avicenna. He knows how to bleed a patient, apply a poultice, balance the 4 humors, black bile, yellow bile, phlegm, and blood. None of it will help. Master Enzo examines Giovanni carefully. He uses a wooden rod to push the clothing aside and see the bubo. He doesn't touch it with his hand. He's seen this before. Not here. But he's heard reports from Constantinople, from Aleppo, from Trebizond. He looks at you. Go back to your house, he says. Bar the door. Don't go out. Don't receive visitors. And pray. You ask what Giovanni has. Master Enzo doesn't answer. He leaves through the door. Too fast to be a normal exit. That is the first sign that this is different from anything you have ever seen. Giovanni dies in 4 days. You weren't there. You were sent away, but you heard. The whole alley heard. The screaming first, then silence, then the weeping of his mother outside. You're at home. You run your hand along your neck. Feel anything? No. You check your armpit. Nothing. You check your groin. Nothing. You sleep. On the 3rd day after Giovanni's death, you wake up at 3 a.m. Fever? Not the fever you know. Not the kind that passes with chamomile tea and rest. This one is different. It starts in the bones, as if someone filled your rib cage with burning coals. You're running 104.9 degrees. You don't have a thermometer. You don't need one to know something is wrong. You're cold and hot at the same time. You vomit twice before dawn. Your mother comes into the room. She places her hand on your forehead. She goes pale. She leaves. She comes back with a damp cloth. She knows it won't help. She does it anyway. On the 2nd day, the bubo appears. Left armpit. You feel it first as a faint ache. like a pulled muscle. You press your finger in and feel it. Hard, round, hot, the size of a hazelnut. Within 24 hours, it is the size of an egg. The skin around it begins to change color. First red, then purple, then a color that has no adequate name in any language of the 14th century. A color that only exists when human tissue is dying from the inside out. The pain is in a category of its own. Not the pain of a cut, not the pain of a broken bone. It's a constant pulsing pressure, as if your own body is trying to split open at that point. Every heartbeat sends a wave of pain from your armpit down to your elbow. You can't lower your arm. You sleep with it raised, braced against the wall. You don't really sleep. You pass out and come back. Master Enzo appears on the third day. He's wearing a mask, a leather mask with a long bird's beak. Inside the beak are aromatic herbs, lavender, mint, chamomile, cloves. The theory is that the disease travels through the air as a miasma, a foul vapor. The herbs will filter it out. The theory is completely wrong, but Master Enzo doesn't know that. He examines the bubo with a metal instrument. He considers opening it, draining the pus. It was a technique used at the time, an incision into the node to release the evil. Sometimes it worked. More often, it caused septic hemorrhage and accelerated death. If the bubo opens on its own, he has a chance, he tells your mother. Not you. If it doesn't, I can try to drain it. Opens on its own. That means the node, filled with pus and live bacteria, will eventually rupture the skin from internal pressure. You will feel it happen. The skin will give way. Dark pus mixed with dark blood will come out. The smell will be unbearable. It will last for hours. If the bubo opens and the body manages to drain it, and if the infection hasn't entered the bloodstream, and if the lungs haven't been reached, you have a chance of surviving. A chance, not a certainty. A chance. The mortality rate for bubonic plague without modern treatment is between 30% and 75%, depending on the strain, the patient's constitution, and how long the infection took to spread. If the bacteria reach the lungs, transforming into pneumonic plague, the mortality rate climbs toward 100%. Without antibiotics, death from pneumonic sepsis comes within 2 to 3 days of the first pulmonary symptoms. Penicillin will not be discovered for another 581 years. Streptomycin, the antibiotic that actually works against Yersinia pestis, for another 598. You have neither. You have your mother's damp cloth. You have Master Enzo's herbs. You have the rye bread she still insists on making every morning, even when you can't eat. Here I need to ask you a question. You're in the next room. You're healthy. You haven't been infected yet. Your mother is tending to your younger brother, who has the same symptoms you just read about. Master Enzo appears and says, "There are two paths. You stay, care for him, and risk dying alongside him, or you leave now while you still can, and maybe save yourself. Would you stay, or would you run? Tell me in the comments, because that was exactly the choice millions of people faced between 1347 and 1351, and their answers shaped the Europe that exists today. You spend the 5th day in delirium. The fever has reached the point where the brain begins generating images. You see the port, you see the ship from Kaffa, you see the sailor at the mast repeating the same word on loop. Run, run, run. Your mother doesn't leave the room. She's tired in a way that goes beyond physical. She lost Giovanni next door. She lost the baker on the corner. She lost a woman from the market whose name she knew but you never learned. She's counting deaths the way you count stones. The city outside is changing its sound. Before there was constant noise. Port, market, children, animals. Now there is silence with interruptions. Carts you don't recognize pass in the dead of night. Heavy, slow, with the sound of something moving inside them. Not merchandise. Bodies. The gravediggers of Messina charge for their service. At first they charge in coin, then they stop charging because there's nowhere to spend money. Then they simply stop showing up because they too are dying. The church tries to control the burials. It fails. The Bishop of Messina orders a procession through the streets. Prayers, incense, relics. The procession passes near infected houses. Several priests fall ill the following week. The bishop shortly after. There is no effective quarantine because no one understands vector transmission. They know the disease spreads from person to person through contact, but they don't know that the rat flea X. Xenopsilla chiapes is the primary vector. They don't know that the bacterium can travel through the air once the plague turns pneumonic. They don't know that the rats dying in the streets are a warning signal, not a consequence. They try what they know, bloodletting. They open veins in the patient's arm to drain the bad blood. This weakens an immune system already overwhelmed. Poultices. They apply raw bacon, cut onion, and crushed herbs over the bubo to draw out the poison. This does nothing against Yersinia pestis. Theriac, a compound of dozens of ingredients including snake flesh, opium, honey, and various minerals. A Greek universal antidote. It doesn't work against bacteria. Urine therapy. Some physicians recommend drinking one's own urine or bathing the nodes in it. No bactericidal effect. Sometimes causes secondary infection on skin already compromised. Herbal smoke. They burn sulfur, amber, and aromatic wood in the rooms of the sick. The smoke chokes. It does not cure. Prayer. The Church offers indulgences to those who died in a state of grace. This does not combat Yersinia pestis, but it provides comfort, and comfort, in this context, has real value. 6 weeks after Giovanni's death, Messina has lost a third of its population. Not a third of one neighborhood, a third of the entire city. On the 7th day, you wake up different. The fever is still there, but something has shifted in the bubo. The pressure that was constant is now pulsing. You feel it through your entire arm. Your mother is sitting in the chair beside you. She was asleep. She wakes when you move. You look at her. She looks at your armpit. The bubo opened during the night. The skin gave way under internal pressure. There is a 2-centimeter tear. Dark yellow pus mixed with dark blood is seeping out. The smell fills the room in seconds. Your mother turns to the side, breathes in deep, turns back. She doesn't run. She picks up the cloth. She cleans. She does this with her hands, with boiled linen rags. She doesn't know that this isn't enough protection against Yersinia pestis. She does it because she's your mother and because there is no other option. Master Enzo appears that day. He examines the drained bubo. He observes the fever. He counts the days. He calculates. If he makes it through tonight, he tells your mother in a low voice. If he makes it through tonight, there's a chance. Just tonight. The fever that kills is not the fever itself. It's the body's inflammatory response, what modern medicine will call sepsis. When the body launches a dysregulated immune response, organs begin to fail in cascade. Kidneys, liver, lungs, heart. It happens fast, in hours. You have no corticosteroids, no blood pressure support, no supplemental oxygen, no ICU. You have nothing. You have the rye bread your mother made at 5 a.m., not knowing whether you'd still be alive to eat it. You eat half the bread that night. It is the first thing you've eaten in 6 days. You survive. Not because you were stronger, not because you prayed more. Modern medicine will discover that survival from bubonic plague without treatment depended largely on genetic factors. Specifically, variants in the CCR5 chemokine receptors that dampened the systemic inflammatory response. Roughly 10% of the European population carried that variant. It was naturally selected by the epidemic itself. You, by accident of birth, were one of them. You spend another 2 weeks in bed. The fever oscillates. It returns, fades, returns weaker. The bubo closes, leaving a scar you will carry for the rest of your life, a hardened node below your left arm that aches in the cold. When you finally step outside, Messina is a different city. Not metaphorically. Literally a different city. Of the 300 houses in your neighborhood, 87 have their doors marked with a chalk X. That means all their occupants died or fled. The market that opened every day since you were a child is closed. The butcher, the blacksmith, the fishmonger, you don't know who is still alive. The port is partially operating, with half its workers. The others are dead. You went to the port to work and haul cargo from a ship out of Kaffa. You went to do the only job you'd ever known on an ordinary day in 1347. And Western Europe will lose between 30% and 60% of its population over the next 5 years. 30 to 50 million people. Killed by the same thing that climbed down the anchor ropes of that ship in the port of Messina. Killed by the same bubo that opened in your armpit. Killed by a bacterium that no one will manage to name, identify, or effectively combat for another 500 years. But you're standing, with the smell of rye bread still in your memory, with the scar below your left arm, with the image of your mother wringing out a damp cloth in the basin at 3 a.m. You survived the deadliest disease in human history with no real tools to fight it. No antibiotics, no intensive care, no understanding of what was causing what was killing. You survived by genetic accident, by the luck of the bubo opening at the right moment, and by a woman who made bread every morning even when she didn't know if there would be anyone alive to eat it. The Europe that emerged on the other side of the Black Death was different. With fewer people, labor became more expensive. Serfs gained bargaining power. Feudalism began to crack. The church, which had no answers for the catastrophe, lost its moral authority. The questioning that began in the streets of Messina in 1347 would fuel, a century and a half later, the Protestant Reformation. The modern world was partly built on the 50 million dead of the Black Death. You were one of the ones who stayed. And you will spend the rest of your life knowing it wasn't merit. It was luck.